All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It is Brian Hines back, as always, with Alex Barth for another off-season edition. But we have another contract extension to break down as the Patriots keep hammering these things out and giving us little details or things to talk about here and there. So we're not complaining too much. And this time it was linebacker Jahlani Tavai. He was entering the last year of the 2-year extension he signed back in 2022, but he agrees on a new 3-year extension worth a maximum value of 21 million, base value of 15 million. That was reported yesterday by ESPN on Tuesday. Today's Wednesday, so Tuesday it was reported. So continue to lock these guys up. We spent all free agency kind of talking about how they re-signed their own guys, and now they've shifted to these upcoming unrestricted free agents: RAAndre Stevenson, Christian Barmore, David Andrews. Tavai is next in line. So we'll kind of talk about how they're still extending these guys and giving out these contracts. But first on Tavai, just what were your thoughts on the player and keeping him around here for the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good contract. Obviously, it's not a ton of money. I didn't realize he's only 27. He's going to turn 28 at the end of September. So, young guy. I thought he was like 30. But plays an important role in their defense. Wears a lot of hats. Kind of front seven version of what Myles Bryant was. Really emerged last year, 110 tackles. The biggest thing is, when he came in, at least to the Patriots, he was a real liability in coverage. And he was a guy you could only put on the edge, have him set that strong side edge against the run. And that was kind of it. And they kept trying to have him do more. And I never really understood that. And then last year, I don't know what he did, but he put in a ton of work and he made tremendous strides in coverage last year. And look, I'm not, putting him one-on-one with Tyreek Hill or anything, but you need him to match up a running back or a smaller tight end. Like, you can do that. He can do that. And so as a result, he now wears a ton of hats for this defense. He played the fifth most defensive snaps of any player on the team last year. So a guy that does a lot, a guy that's reliable, a guy that is definitely one of the culture setters in that locker room. We've talked about how important that is to get him for what's going to be like, I don't know, maybe 1.5% of the cap. No brainer. Yep. And the other thing is, he is an important part specifically of their run defense. If they can't figure things out with Tavai Godshaw, obviously they play different positions, but you're going to need other guys to step up in terms of stopping the run. And he would be one of the first guys I think we talk about if something happens with Tavai Godshaw.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the locker room. Like, that's an underrated thing that, we see more, obviously, being down there, like, good locker room guy, good attitude, energy, brings it every day. But yeah, the pass coverage, like, for a 6'2", 250, 255-pound linebacker who, loves to take on, blockers and guards in the run game. He loves to set the edge. Like, he can cover pretty well. And I think a lot of that is like his instincts. He's a smart football player. He knows where to be, understands like zone drops, zone coverages. I mean, last year, 2 interceptions, 5 pass deflections. Like, he was not a liability in coverage at all. He was valuable in coverage there. And, credit to him, because really when he came here, he was just a liability in general, right? Like, he was unplayable in his time with Detroit. Matt Patricia drafted him in the 2nd round. He was unplayable. He comes here. I believe he started on the practice squad here originally and then worked his way up.
Yeah.
And he's become really a core part of this defense, I would say. The versatility to play on the ball, off the ball, like the Myles Bryant of, linebackers was kind of a perfect way to describe him there. The way he can move around and really just do everything for this defense. It was a big, he wears a lot of hats. And, going back.
Do you remember the offseason of 2022? Bill Belichick gave that random SiriusXM interview right before camp as we were all putting together a pre-camp roster projections.
Didn't he call out Tavai or something?
He said Tavai's going to make the team. He basically said, I don't remember word for word, but he essentially said Jahlani Tavai's going to make the team. And we were, people were sitting there like, what are you talking about? Like, we all had him off. I remember Mike was co-hosting the show at the time. It was a big learning experience for Mike. He was still leaving Jahlani Tavai off his roster projections. I'm like, Bill Belichick is telling you he's on the team. You'd better listen. But it did seem weird at the time. And that's one where, they obviously did a tremendous job. Old school classic Patriots. This guy was misused elsewhere. He wasn't doing what he was best at. They rounded out his game. They just had him doing things he did well, and he turned into a very productive player.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking back at his stats last year, like 110 tackles, 35 run stops, and then 13 quarterback pressures. Those were all career highs for him. And then go along with the coverage stats, like 2 interceptions, 5 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, was big with like in the turnover department. He was just a career year last year. And, PFF grades are what they are. They're not the end all be all, but he was like the fourth highest graded linebacker in football, which again, it's a PFF grade, but it shows you the level that he was playing on last year. It was really impressive. So you can play fullback, maybe you can play kicker too on the kickoffs.
Right.
We'll still see with that. He's been campaigning to do that, but it was a good signing. Again, it was 21 million max over 3 years, 15 base value. So he's not going to eat too much into this salary cap. They'll still have over or around 40 million this year, and we know all the space they have moving forward. So it's not someone that's going to again restrict you from going out and making bigger moves. But for a guy who plays a lot on your defense, plays a lot of roles, it's a good deal to kind of scratch off your to-do list here before we get back for football and training camp.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, they keep extending these guys. Are you okay with still like giving all these out, or do you think this is kind of set in the precedent where you're going to have everyone who's or a free agent next year kind of knocking on Elliott Wolf's door and saying like, hey, where's my money? Do you think they need to draw a line somewhere, or it's good to just keep getting this business taken care of now?
I mean, we've talked about kind of where that line is, right? Joshua Uche, no new contract for him. He just signed. When it's deals like this, I just find it hard to get worked up about because it's such a like he plays a role and it's such a minor contract. It's a blip on the radar, and I don't mean that in any offense to Jahlani Tavai, but max value 21 million over 3 years. That's nothing. So, I'm not bothered by this. Again, I think the really interesting one is going to be Davon Godchaux.
Yeah.
I think Judon's going to get his. I think he's going to get his money. Whether he gets any new years will be the question, and maybe that will tell us something. But they keep talking about they want to play this more aggressive style of defense. We've heard that maybe they'll do less two gapping, right? So Davon Godchaux, as good of a player as he is, as good of a locker room presence as he is, maybe not a fit schematically. And are they paying him just because he's here? Or do they recognize that at a certain point, you got to start overturning the roster? And the way you do that is let players go. So Davon Godchaux is going to be a really interesting one to me, but I don't think 21 million over 3 years to Jahlani Tavai sets any sort of dramatic precedent.
Yeah, I agree with there. And we'll see. We'll wait for the structure, but they could probably get out of it in 2 years, right? Like I think we got the RAAndre structure yesterday or early today finally, and that was you can get out of it after 2026, I think, which is like year two of the extension. It kicks in after this year, so like year 2 of the extension. So nothing too major to get worked up on, but those big guys like Godchaux, Judon, that will kind of be maybe where you want to draw the line, depending on what their asks are and what they want moving forward. So that was our news. Jahlani Tavai extended again 3 years, 21 max, 15 base value. He is locked back in. Another upcoming free agent they take care of. They keep shortening that list, and their linebacker core is kind of locked in here for the next few years as well. So that's a good core with, Taki was 2 years, I believe. Bentley got extended last year. So Mapu on his rookie deal. So they have those guys locked in for the next few years there at their linebacker core. But we can kick it over to the chat now. We will do a little Q&A. So any Patriots questions you guys have about any free agents or trades, or look ahead a little early, look ahead to training camp, make sure you drop that in the chat. Even if you want to throw some Boston sports questions, we'll have a little Boston sports minute at the end so we can get to everything in the chat. And while you guys start,
we can even do some college football mourning the end of the Pac-12 and the
what a hat.
Yeah,
what a hat right there. But while you guys start putting some questions in the chat, I will tell you about our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. We're still celebrating our Celtics championship. They're bringing the team back, but just because the finals are over does not mean the hoops action is stopping on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is in the thick of it, and young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are making names for themselves alongside the greats like Breanna Stewart, and you could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. Baseball season also in full swing. That's all we really got to watch besides our women's basketball, or I guess the Olympics coming up. We had some unfortunate USA soccer to watch, but it is baseball season, so there's tons of stat projections and entries on the baseball as well. I'm picking Caitlin Clark back to women's basketball more than 2.5 3-pointers because she has been balling out lately. So if you're looking for promotions as well, Prize Picks has got you covered from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. So download Prize Picks today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy over on Prize Picks. So we can jump over to the chat. Kind of keeping it with linebackers, keeping it with the Tavai extension. Some Marte Mapu questions. Coop asked, we got some of the slowest linebackers. Why aren't they playing Mapu down there? And Steven says, kind of building off that, so will Marte Mapu be anything more than a special teamer? What you kind of, it's a tough guy to project a role for moving forward, but what are you kind of thinking with Marte Mapu here entering year 2?
I think there's a real chance that he ends up being one of these guys, and this happens all the time around the league, that he got drafted. There was a plan for him. He was a player you needed a very certain plan for, but he gets drafted. There's a plan for him. Suddenly, new coaching staff, new-ish front office, and they want to go in a different direction. And suddenly the path he was on no longer exists. So I do think he'll play special teams. As to why he doesn't play linebacker, they just don't believe in playing linebackers at that size. That's always been a philosophy of theirs. Maybe that changes this year, but based on what we saw this spring, that doesn't seem to be the case. I think he's basically going to be in the role Adrian Phillips was in last year, which is depth, safety, and special teamer. And we'll see from there. This is not, I know I say this isn't the group that drafted him and people will scream that Elliott Wolf was in the room. I get it, but he was drafted with a very different vision. And that the people who had that vision maybe aren't, leading the decision-making anymore. And that kind of changes his career path.
Yeah. We mentioned it before, but I still think it was Bill's plan was probably let Kyle Duggar walk. And now you have his replacement in Marte Mapu. So obviously they re-signed Kyle Duggar. So that role isn't as clear for Mapu entering year 2 here. Do you think, could he be a sneaky trade candidate late there in camp, or is it still just too early to kind of give up on that as a whole?
I mean, I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, and he was a little bit later of a pick. That's essentially what they did with Pierre Strong last year.
Yeah.
Right. So I had a bet. I think he's on the team, but he wouldn't be the most surprising person for them to part ways with this summer.
Yep. Yeah. So he'll be an interesting guy to watch throughout camp.
Just going to freak this guy out here. Is this pre-recorded? No, it's 1:16 p.m.
It's not. Yeah, there we go. He also wants to know, what would a CeeDee Lamb trade package look like? I'm guessing that.
Pull up the contract.
CeeDee Lamb is really good. It would have to start with the first-round pick, and I'm still not in the camp of giving up the Patriots' first-round pick next year because it's could be top 10. The odds are favored. It's going to be top 5 probably. So that would be a lot, I think, to give up for CeeDee Lamb, but it's still if they would take a second plus, I don't know. I also still don't see Dallas trading CeeDee Lamb, but if he was asking out, what would your package kind of be there?
Well, I mean, when are we talking about? If we're talking about right now, I think it starts with the first-round pick because you're going to have to pry him away. Dallas is a team. They need to win. Mike McCarthy needs to win. Even Jerry Jones, how many seasons does he have left? He needs to win. I don't think they're really in the mode for the future, so you have to really make it worth their while. Let's say we get to the deadline and the Cowboys are kind of stinking it up. Now maybe you're talking about a second-round pick plus a future second and a high day 3 pick. You get to the off season. Maybe they franchise him to trade him like we thought the Bengals were going to do with CeeDee Lamb. Now it becomes a second round pick because you're not trading a first round pick for a guy that needs a new contract. That just generally doesn't happen. I know there's rare instances, but usually that's not the case. So right now it's a first plus. I think you can get it down to a second plus, which I would do, but they don't, one, that trade's not happening right now. I'd be shocked if the Cowboys traded CeeDee Lamb this, like, before the start of the season. I could see it eventually, but not right now. I don't think it's happening right now. Even if the price would be enormous if you were to try to do that before the start of the season.
Did they draft a receiver?
Cowboys?
Yeah.
I think they did late. Because their first round pick was
Guyton, right?
Right. I was going to say, I knew it was a lineman. They drafted like all linemen. They took Ryan Flournoy in the sixth round.
Nothing.
No.
They're not like preparing here. They draft a guy and then move on from CeeDee Lamb, it looks like. So unless, they could draft a guy next year. But that's probably something we talk about more in the offseason. I still don't see them trading him right now. Bader, he comes to the right place. Like, are you guys excited for the kicker competition as much as he is? Like, obviously, that's all we talk about on this show. But it still might be, the winner might be someone not on the team right now. So that's kind of the big wild card here is when we get back to camp, how's Chad Ryland looking? It wasn't an awesome spring for him. Joey Sly was okay. It wasn't, he made his kicks, but it wasn't pretty. So I think we're still kind of waiting and seeing here. Is there going to be a third kicker or just a new kicker and one of these current guys leaves? Like, that's kind of the big question mark for this kicker competition. And it could extend all the way through the preseason, right? Like, maybe we're sitting at roster cuts and we've gone through that list before of how many teams have 2-3 kickers on their roster. Like, there's going to be kicker movement like there was last year with, we traded Nick Folk, a few other guys got traded. This is something that could extend, and the winner of said competition might not even be on the roster right now.
Yeah, I still think there's a chance. I would still like to see them add another kicker. And who that is, I mean, we've talked about that. I have a post up about that on 985thesportshub.com. Some guys from the UFL that could make sense, but I didn't see anything this spring that encouraged me a ton for either guy, for Ryland or Sly.
Yep. Agree with you there. Will Bryce bring back the rec specs? Bryce Behringer?
I don't think so. I think he said last year he got like LASIK or something.
He did. Remember there was he missed an OTA and then he came back with the visor. And we were like, oh, he should wear the blackout visor. And then he made a comment like he was doing it because of the medical staff or something. And then he's never wore the glasses last year. So maybe something, maybe he did get something done so he doesn't have to wear them. But yeah, unfortunately they might be over with. Safety room, any chance Marcus Jones or Isaiah Bolden could play some free safety this year? I could kind of see Marcus Jones maybe taking that Miles Bryant role where he's just moving all over the place and, maybe a little safety, a little corner mixed in. But could you see any of those guys maybe taking on a larger role on the back end?
I mean, with Jones, he has most of the skill set. The question is tackling. He's just small, and you have to be a good tackler to be back there. I said last year I thought Isaiah Bolden could maybe play some free safety. They haven't shown us anything to indicate that they're going to give him a shot there, but I mean, it would make sense if they did. Especially, I mean, you're competing at the back end of that cornerback room. Versatility is going to be key. We know we can play on the boundary. That's what we played in college, and then we saw him play in the slot a ton this spring. So, add one more position. Why not? But he can't just say, hey, coach, I'm going to play free safety, right? They have to kind of set that up. So to this point, they haven't done that, but that doesn't mean they won't. Just means we haven't seen it. Yep.
Marcellus Dial, too, could be another guy who maybe moves back there. I think people were talking after he got drafted, like he's a little raw as a corner still. Maybe he could move back to kind of that free safety spot early in his career. So they have some options. But is that a position you're concerned about? As Gerard asked here, because we've talked about it for 2 years now since Devin McCourty left. Like, you need that free safety. Jalen Hawkins, they signed like a late depth signing in free agency, but he was pretty active during the spring, so maybe that's his role. But where's your kind of concern level, if there's any at all, with the free safety room?
I think it's an important role, and not necessarily concerned about that specific position, but you pay Kyle Duggar all this money. You still Jabriel Peppers. You want those guys in spots where they're able to maximize what they can do. in order to do that, they need to be in the box. So you need somebody deep. And I think the days of having a full-time free safety, Devin McCourty, playing 99.9% of the snaps on defense, I think that that's just been phased out. The Patriots were one of the last teams playing that way in the NFL, and there just aren't that many players like that coming into the league now from college. But having a guy that when you get to third and long, when you get to 2 minute, can play that center field role, honestly, it'd be more like Duron Harmon than Devin McCourty. I think having a guy that can do that is very important to maximize this defense. And right now, the only guy that really projects there is Jalen Hawkins. I mean, Kyle Duggar and Jabriel Peppers can, but they're not at their best when they're back there. They might try Marte Mapu back there, but I don't think he has the speed for it. You need tremendous speed to be able to play that role. So, I mean, I don't know if concern's the right word, but it's definitely something to watch.
Yep. Yeah, I was just looking up Duron Harmon as you said his name, looking at his snap counts, and he was early in his career, he was 30%. Middle of his career, he was right around 50.
Give me 17, 18, 19. Yeah, that's so kind of the sweet spot.
17, 18, 19, it was 66, 61, 65%. So he was playing
about right.
The majority of his Patriots career, he was playing 55 to 60% of the defensive snaps back there.
I would say that's about right for Jalen Hawkins.
Yeah.
If he makes for that role, assuming Hawkins gets to that point.
Yeah. But yeah, you're not going to get the 99% Devin McCourty back there with this current setup. But another safety one, another contract one is Jabriel Peppers, maybe next on your list. Seems like he would be, Steven says, seems like he would be a logical choice if you really want to run it back. He's in the last year of the 2-year deal he signed last offseason. So could Peppers, seems like, he's really taken on even a leadership role, last year more. So he could be someone kind of next on this list of new contracts before the season starts.
Look, I think everybody knows how I feel. If you watch the show, you know how I feel about Jabriel Peppers at this point. I mean, that's a cornerstone guy if there ever was one. I'd love to see it. He's entering his age 29 season, 2-year deal. I would make all the sense in the world. He may want to hit free agency one more time before he turns 30 and see if he can get one last big contract. But if they can get him paid, yes, he's absolutely a guy to keep around.
Yep. I agree with you there. Bader has an interesting situation here for us. It's week 11. Matt Stafford gets hurt. Jimmy G comes in, starts, and beats the Patriots. Alex, what's your reaction?
I'll be annoyed. It means the Patriots defense had a terrible game, and that would suck because they're going to need their defense to win games. That would bug me. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo still has to be healthy by week 11, which that in itself would be something.
And get through a full game to actually beat the Patriots.
Right. Healthy. I'll flip it on you. Mac Jones in London. Trevor Lawrence is hurt. How do you feel if he beats Patriots?
Especially if Drake May's starting, not good. That would be annoying. That would be very annoying. But what week is that? 7, 8, London?
9, I think.
9. Oof. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence is healthy. Although I don't know, Mac Jones.
So you don't even want to risk it.
Mac Jones should be a win. Mac Jones should be a win. They should.
No. You're still buying in on Mac Jones. You think the Jags can fix him?
No,
it is week 7, by the way.
Week 7. Okay.
You don't want to face Mac Jones. You're worried about big bad Mac Jones.
I'm terrified.
Taking down the Patriots across the pond.
You got me. If Mac Jones beats Drake May in London.
A little European redemption for Mac Jones.
I don't know what I'll do. We'll circle back to that. But yeah,
it would be fast. It would be fascinating. And honestly, I'll just while we're on this, the biggest winner of that whole thing would be where's their coaching staff? There it is. The biggest winner of that whole thing would probably be Mike McCoy and Press Taylor. Biggest winners, because it would mean that they actually salvaged Mac Jones from what happened to him in New England. And that would be a very impressive feat.
If he plays a few games next year and plays well, do you think some team is going to buy back in and throw him a good amount of money to be their starting quarterback in free agency next year?
I think he could get, I don't know about all in, but those teams were they're not, especially with next year's quarterback class, which
like
is
a
not
Mike White deal or something.
a little more than that. I'm trying to think of the example, when a team like signs a veteran to like a mid-level deal and then drafts a guy in like the second, third, fourth round, and they battle it out, like what the Vikings should be doing, but because they signed Darnold. I usually have example. Why can't I think of a team that's done this? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
The Bucks kind of did this. They had Kyle Trask.
Trask, but like Brady obviously isn't competing.
No, Trask and Baker.
I mean, it's
Trask
kind of
and
like,
Baker.
Oh, yeah, that's
maybe
true.
not. So it can be, maybe it's a team that either already drafted a quarterback, or maybe a team like the Saints is done with Derek Carr, right? And they drafted this past year as a perfect example.
Spencer Rattler.
They drafted Spencer Rattler this past year. They're not totally sure about Spencer Rattler, but they want to move on from Derek Carr. Mac Jones played a couple good games in Jacksonville. Now he comes in and him and Rattler battle it out, right? Or like something like that.
Maybe even like Cam here, like.
Yeah, Cam and Stidham is a good one, because I think that at one point was a competition. It ended very quickly, but I do think Cam didn't sign till late. They were going to give Stidham a chance, and then obviously they didn't. He didn't earn it, but I don't know that he'll get like definitive starter money or definitive starter opportunity. But a team with a young non-first round quarterback that is like just wants to make sure they're covered so it's not a total disaster, that would be, I think, the kind of team that he looks for. Or he could be the other side of it. He could be the young reclamation project. He could be Justin Fields. Now, the Steelers might do other weird stuff with Justin Fields, but he could be like Justin Fields to somebody's Russell Wilson.
Kicks.
No, Mac Jones is not returning kicks, but he could be like Justin Fields to Russell Wilson, something like that.
Yeah. All right, that's enough Mac Jones talk. But Javon
offseason.
Yeah, that's where we're at. Will Javon Baker be back during training camp? I'd imagine. Like, he was out there in like a limited fashion in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, so you'd assume it's nothing that serious. So I would imagine he'll be back for training camp.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a major issue for him.
Yep. Let's see what else we got here.
Hang on, I'll pull this up. If Josh Allen can start week 1, Drake May can't. Josh Allen did not start week 1 of his rookie year.
Started. Who'd they start over?
It wasn't Fitz. It was
It wasn't Tyrod Taylor. It was.
Josh Allen did start week 2, but he didn't start week 1. Nathan Peterman. I knew that. Nathan Peterman.
Okay, there we go.
The comment says, by the way, for those listening on audio, if Josh Allen can start week 1, then Drake May can. Drake May is far more ready and a better player than Josh Allen coming out of college. That second part's true. Josh Allen didn't start week 1, though, and he did start early, but look at what happened. He was a disaster, and it took 2 years, one brilliant coaching decision in hiring Brian Daboll and trading for Stephon Diggs to get him back on track. Like, I know Josh Allen, and people are going to roll their eyes because it's me saying it. I know Josh Allen's become this great player. I would not use Josh Allen as a blueprint.
Yep.
The blueprint is, the blueprint should be more a guy like, who's an example? Not Mahomes, because not sitting the whole year.
Yeah, Mahomes was the full year.
I mean, I would say Herbert.
He came in like early too because of the.
It was like week 5. Thing. It was like week 5.
That was early, wasn't it? Like
sure?
Week 2, because Tyrod Taylor punctured. Remember the doctor punctured his lung.
Yeah, the doctor stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the lung. Things happened. But, you're right. He did start 15 games.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought that was in like October.
Yeah, that was like it was. But I thought it was earlier.
Another guy who didn't start week 1. So
yeah. I can't think of anyone who just sat out like a month and then came in. Like Stroud started right away. Bryce Young started right away.
Well, Bryce Young is not the.
But yeah, Bryce Young isn't the result you hope for there. But speaking of Brian Daboll, though, is he going to be the Bills' next head coach? Do you think? Like,
if they're smart.
Like Sean McDermott gets fired after they lose to the Chiefs again in the playoffs. The Giants stink this year, so they fire Brian Daboll, and then he's just back there in Buffalo next year.
If they're smart, that's what they'll do. I mean,
Yeah.
is there a hotter seat in football than
Sean McDermott.
Sean McDermott's? I don't think so. I don't
Probably
think there's
not.
anybody. If anybody's close, frankly, it's Brian Daboll. So
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. If they're smart, they should do that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if not, if he gets fired, they should make him the highest paid coordinator in the league and bring him back as the offense coordinator at the very least, because they have this weird attachment to Sean McDermott and being there.
Yeah.
You see the clip from Hard Knocks of Bean where the other GMs are making fun of him? I sent it to the group chat last night.
Oh, yeah, the one the trade one?
Yeah. Who is it? The guy from the Giants is like talking to all the GMs at the Senior Bowl, asking them about trades. And he says like, Brandon, oh, you want a top 10 pick? Oh, no, wait, you can't afford a top 10 pick because the Bills can't. They're building the stadium. They don't have the cash on hand. That's why they had to get rid of half their roster.
Yep.
Some might call that a poverty organization.
Yeah, that was a funny clip. I didn't get to watch it was the Hard Knocks HBO
the off season
Giants off season.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch the episode, but there were a lot of clips going around. I just loved that one you sent. It was the Panthers GM and it was the Giants GM, and they were at the Senior Bowl and they were discussing trades. And all of a sudden, the Panthers GM just blurts out like, "Hey, you want Brian Burns for couple first round picks?" And the Giants GM is like, "Yeah, maybe." Like, I love how these big blockbuster NFL trades just start like our fantasy football trades, just like throwing crap out there, throwing crap against the wall and seeing what sticks. That was a funny clip. So we'll have to, did you watch the episode at all?
I haven't yet. I've just seen some of the clips that are on Twitter. There's another one where it's the Giants front office just kind of debating something in it. I got to find the quote. It's like,
I saw a bunch
if we lose Saquon, what's our identity? And Joe Schoen just goes, "We've got to upgrade the offensive line, and you're paying Daniel Jones $40 million. It's not hard to hand the ball off to a $12 million running back." It's like, is that it? That's what we do. That's how we talk. I'm sure they're not showing the intricate, more detailed conversations, but I'm like, that's how we talk.
Yeah. That was funny to see how they talk, just like us. But let's see. Let's get back to the chat. Nelson says that the left tackle doesn't look great. Should we sign a UFL left tackle? I don't know if there's going to be any starting UFL left tackles out there, considering we can barely get 32 starting left tackles in the NFL. So unless, Nelson, you're scouting something and you got your eye on someone, I don't know. I don't think that's probably the answer right there.
Yeah, there's just a shortage of tackles. You're not going to magically find somebody. It's not somebody from the UFL. I really don't think it's David Bakhtiari. We've been getting that question a ton. If he could play, he'd be on a roster. 13 games in the last 3 years. He's physically not up for it. This is kind of what it's going to be. I don't think they're going to find some late answer. Maybe at guard they can if it's a mess there. It's a little more friendly at guard when you look at the free agent market, but there, like you said, forget 64 starting caliber tackles. There might not be 32. You're not just going to find somebody. The time to get somebody was in March and April, and they didn't. And that's the decision they made, and they're going to have to live with it.
Yep. This is kind of a good one from Todd. We haven't really talked about it. Why is no one worried about our defense with Bill and his son gone? We have lost consistency in the coaching, and some of our pieces are getting pretty old. I don't know what pieces are getting pretty old there, but Bill is a big loss. Like, Mayo will bring some consistency. DeMarcus Covington was there. We still have Mike Pellegrino, who's a very underrated coach. Brian Belichick is still out there, but there's no replacing Bill Belichick, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So we like the personnel. We still like the coaches, but this is something where we'll just kind of have to wait and see when we get out there. Like, how much did Bill still have his hand in this game plan? Like, I think we were talking a while ago at Gillette, and like you said, like those big quarterbacks, right? Like, he always would be able to pull something out of his bag from 20 years ago and shut down a Justin Herbert or something like that. So there should be a little bit of a drop off there, behind the scenes without Bill there. And we're just going to kind of wait and see how big that impact was.
Yeah, like it's certainly going to make an impact, but I think Gerard Mayo played a big role in that defense last year. He's still there. DeMarcus Covington's a smart football mind. I also think people are sleeping on just how big it is they retained Mike Pellegrino. From a talent development standpoint, he makes a massive difference. I don't want to minimize losing Bill. Like they're going to take a hit, but it's not like they lost the whole room. I guess you hope Mayo, Pellegrino, Covington, Brian Belichick. You hope these guys absorbed a lot from being around Bill and Steve the last few years, and they're not going to be able to replicate it 100%. It's unfair to expect that, but you hope that these guys retained quite a bit and can get it close. Because even if you get 90% what the defense was last year, you're still in great shape.
Yep.
Because if the offense is better, I know they were like the 16th ranked scoring defense last year.
Something like that.
How many times did they have to defend 35 yards after a turnover, right?
I think they were the worst starting field position.
Yeah, they had the worst for a defense. They had the least favorable starting field position. Like the offense, hopefully being better, is going to improve the defense. So,
and just like hopefully they won't have to be on the field as much, right? Like how many 3 and out?
Too, yeah.
Last
I think
year,
they played. I think they didn't play the most defensive snaps, but they were top 5.
Yeah. So. And again, like Gerard had such a big hand the last few years in the game plans and some of the big picture stuff on defense. You'll hope they'll be okay. Again, like losing Bill, you lose like the biggest football encyclopedia of all time. So you're gonna lose a little bit there, but you hope with what you have, the continuity, and you still have a lot of talent on the defense side of the football. You hope you'll be good enough still. Well, there will be good enough, but you think they could still put together a top 5, top 10 unit there. So,
you want to do this one? College players to watch?
Sure. College players to watch. Left tackles, 100%.
Well, and the two are Will Campbell from LSU and Kelvin Banks from Texas. These are true left tackles. They're going to be playing in the SEC. They're elite players. Patriots have a top 5 pick. They're going to have a shot at one of these guys. Maybe not both. Maybe you see one go in the top 3, but again, it's very early. Very, very early. James Pierce is going to be a top 5 pick. Will Johnson's going to be a top 5 pick. Travis Hunter is going to be a top 5 pick. Those are all defense players, by the way. So there's a lot. Remember how last year there was like no defense?
Yeah.
I think it was like the most offensive players taken in the first round.
This year's
I wouldn't say it's lopsided. It's not as lopsided as last year, but there's definitely more, especially at the very top. I think I forget what we ended up doing, but last year people thought that it could go like 10, 12 picks without a defensive player. I think we don't get more than 3.
Didn't maybe it go somebody, like 13?
Maybe something like that. Yeah, it was the longest run. Maybe like a quarterback, Carson Beck, Shooter sneaks to the top. Was it the Colts? The Colts were 13. So yeah.
Yeah, they picked one of the edge rushers they picked. I think that was the first one.
Again, you're going to see Pierce, Johnson, Hunter, Harold Perkins, even though he's a linebacker, I think will work his way into that conversation. So the guys to watch: a tackle, Will Campbell, LSU, Kelvin Banks, Texas. At wide receiver, I've obviously talked a ton about Luther Burden. I think he is the best wide receiver in college football. But as some people have pointed out, and it's fair, if you really want to build this thing out, if you're the Patriots, Luther Burden is a smaller receiver. Now, he runs a very complete route tree. He plays bigger than his size, but the Patriots are kind of small on offense. There's another receiver who some people have in a similar class, who's Tatoria McMillan. I think he goes by Tech McMillan from Arizona, who is... Watching him is very interesting because he's young. He's very young. I just got to pull up his thing here. So he's 21. He'll turn 22 in April. He's a true junior, 6'5", 213. He has some really outstanding highlight, high point to ball, physical to catch point kind of plays. He's also good with the ball in his hands. But there are some times where he just looks like he hasn't played enough football.
Yeah.
He gets pushed off of routes and things like that. So I think we'll see. He has a whole of the year football to play, but I think like if he were in the draft right now, you would see some people comping him to Mike Evans, and you would see some people comping him to N'Keal Harry, depending on what they watch. So the reality is, I don't think he's either. The reality is that was his 20-year-old season. Let's see what he does, with another year on his belt. The other interesting thing about him is he plays with Noah Fafita as the quarterback at Arizona. It's his high school quarterback. So he has that advantage of playing with the guy he's been familiar with. But Tech McMillan from Arizona, and also he won't this year, but for 2 years he played for Jed Fish, who obviously has connections still with the Patriots.
Yep.
Definitely a player Patriots fan should be watching. The other position I've seen people talk about, or two more quick as a potential need, edge is one, especially if, Judon's one and done.
Uche.
And yeah, we'll see what happens with Joshua Uche. I mentioned James Pierce earlier. He's going to be a top 3 pick. So unless that ends up being their biggest need, which I don't see how that happens, you're looking further down. Patrick Payton on day 2 is a guy I really liked last year. He ended up going back to school. JT Tiomalalu and Jack Sawyer.
Right? Peyton.
What's up?
Peyton's FSU, right?
Patrick, yeah, FSU. And then Ohio State had 2 edge guys that were supposed to be top 100 this year. They both went back to school. They're right now, again, we got a long way projected to be day 2 picks. At corner, mentioned Will Johnson, mentioned Travis Hunter. That's your first pick. That's your top pick if you're those guys. I like Jabbar Muhammad, another guy that I really liked in the draft last year that went back to school. He's kind of projected day 2 pick. Kobe Bryant from Kansas is another guy. So long way to go. Long way to go. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the edge will be interesting because it is, defensive heavy, as you said, and they could need an edge, but I would still have a hard time not seeing the biggest need be offensive tackle next year. And again, that's Will Campbell from LSU, Calvin Banks from Texas. Bama has a guy up there too, I believe. Booker, is it Booker? Tyler Booker? Taylor Booker?
Sorry,
Bama,
what position?
Bama offensive tackle.
Yeah, there's another first round guy. Well, so Booker's kind of like he's a little more raw. I don't think people are projecting him in the first round yet because we got to see what he does. The other guy that's gotten a lot of attention is Emory Jones. He's LSU's right tackle. He plays opposite Campbell. He's projected to be a first round pick.
We can flip another guy.
No more right tackles. Get a real left tackle.
All right. Yeah. So those are some, again, early college football names to watch. Who's your top quarterback next year? Not that hopefully we're not drafting one, but who do you think like the first quarterback off the board would be?
First quarterback off the board. It's not the best college football quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I still like Quinn Ewers. I still think he's an electric talent. Yes, he's a little bit on the small side. If he lights it up this year in the SEC after losing all the weapons he had last year, I don't see how he's not the top pick. He could also have a natural regression because of some of the stuff I said. And then I don't know, like Carson Beck's probably the most polished. He's probably the best passer, but Shedeur Sanders and Jalen Milroe are both electric athletes. Cam Ward too. So I think that's the group. It's easier for me to tell you the guys that I don't really believe in who have been hyped up, I think, which is Riley Leonard. I don't see it with Riley Leonard. Taysom Hill, big guy, can run, doesn't throw the ball well. I don't see it with Riley Leonard. I don't see it with Jackson Dart. I don't see it with Cade Klubnik. I wish I still saw it with KJ Jefferson. I don't. He just had a really bad year last year. Maybe he bounces back. Everybody remembers last year, I was kind of in on most of the quarterbacks. This year, I'm out on most of the quarterbacks. I don't know if I said Drew Aller. Could not be more out on Drew Aller. He shouldn't go to the draft this year. I just don't think he's going to have the year.
Is he going to be your JJ McCarthy this year?
Oh God, there's so much JJ McCarthy in him. Unless, are people going to be annoying enough? What's his name? The other half of the Big Ten quarterback failure. Now he's at Syracuse. Why am I blanking? Kyle McCord.
McCord. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least with
Drew Aller and Kyle McCord, to me, are just let down city.
Penn State's not going to win the national championship and go undefeated. So we're not going to have to hear about how Drew Aller is a winner, at least. So hopefully that deters some of that conversation. I still like Carson Beck. He's not like
Carson Beck's just
he's not the most mobile. He's not Shedeur Sanders. He can't move like that. But this will be a big year because he lost Ladd McConkey. He lost Brock Bowers. So now it's kind of on him. I'm sure Georgia still has some top tier talent there, but like it's younger guys. So now he might kind of have to elevate them. That'll be interesting. And
it's just, I feel like he doesn't have, and here we go with this thing again. Like, does he have the ceiling of
like
Shitter, Sanders, or Cam Ward?
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to do the Mac Jones, Justin Fields thing because Cam Ward's bigger. Not Cam Ward. Carson Beck's bigger than Mac Jones. He has a bigger arm, but the mobility similar. And again, that like in a way, Carson Beck, I don't want to say he reminds me of Kyle Trask, but I remember hearing this about Kyle Trask going into that draft, and it made a lot of sense. And I feel kind of the same way about Carson Beck because Kyle Trask was like 6'4", 230, big arm, accurate enough. He was like such a 90s, early 2000s quarterback. And I remember somebody saying if the draft was 20 years ago, if this class was 20 years ago, Kyle McCord's top 10 pick, and Kyle Trask is a top 10 pick, and there's no question about it. And that made a lot of sense because the way the quarterback position was viewed back then, like it makes a lot of sense. I feel the same way about Carson Beck. Now, his game is better than Trask's was at Florida. You know, when I look at Carson Beck, I actually see some Matthew Stafford, who was a first overall pick, but that was in 2009. Yeah. That was a whole generation ago. And the quarterback position is evaluated so differently now. So, like Carson Beck, I think will be a solid NFL quarterback, even potentially like somewhat of a plus. Right, but
he carry a team. Back to that whole conversation we had in October, November, December, January, February.
It's going to be, how fun is it going to be to do this without us being the stakes and just to do this for fun?
I'm looking forward to it.
And it's a fun class. It's not as good of a class.
Every other team can decide.
Yeah, every other team. But like, does Carson Beck have the ceiling Shitter Sanders does? Does he have the ceiling Cameron Ward does? I'd even throw Quinn Ewers in there. Does he have the ceiling Quinn Ewers does? Definitely has the floor. Definitely has the floor. He's got NFL size. He's got a big arm. He plays very composed, all of that. But there are just certain things that are becoming a part of the modern NFL that he's really never going to be able to do. And our team's going to look at that and say, well, we don't want him because we want to be able to do these things. So that's why I'm torn. Like, that doesn't mean he can't be even the first overall pick. That's just why I'm torn on him.
Yep. No, I get that. I get that with him. My one dark horse though is Conor Wagman. Have you watched him? Texas A&M. I know he was hurt.
I've heard a lot about him. I haven't watched a ton of him.
I watched like a little bit of him, and he didn't play much because he was hurt last year. But like, if you want a guy with a big arm and like aggressive, like he's throwing that thing all over the yard, like that's Conor Wagman. So I don't know what Texas A&M's offense is looking like this year. If he's got
probably not
playmakers,
great.
Yeah, if he's got any playmakers he can throw to, but he's someone who he's got the traits that we all talk about. Yeah. So he's someone that was kind of interesting. But
so your dark horse quarterback is currently 78 on the big board. I'll give you my dark horse quarterback. I got to scroll all the way down to 615.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's a big name. DJ Uiagalelei, Florida State.
Okay.
This kid had a ton of potential. Dabo Swinney ruined them. Went to Oregon State last year, started the season well, and then kind of fell off. And Oregon State was a top 15 team for most of the year last year. Now he's in the ACC. He's not going to have a ton of competition. Maybe we kind of see what all the hype was about. Like, could he have, like, he's kind of the similar boat to Spencer Rattler, where Spencer Rattler was a top quarterback recruit. DJ Uiagalelei, top quarterback recruit that just never materialized. Transferred programs, got to change of scenery. And you saw Rattler last year, people didn't think he was going to be drafted at this time last year. And he ended up being the, sixth quarterback off the board. But there were things that Rattler, his size, some of the stuff from his past, he was just never going to be able to get over. DJ Uiagalelei doesn't have that baggage. That for better or worse, baggage is kind of a weird way to phrase it, but he's more of a prototype NFL quarterback in terms of the uncoachables. So if he can come out of Florida State and start slinging the ball around, running around the yard, I think he's somebody that there's always one or two of these guys, right? That start the year projected late round pick, undrafted, that boom, come November, we're talking a lot about. DJ Uiagalelei is a guy I'm certainly watching in that regard. Yeah.
Okay. So those are our dark horse quarterbacks that we're not drafting next year.
That's one. I could go Grayson McCall. But so here's the thing about that. And I know we're kind of going on and on about this, but it's an interesting topic. Pack away. Draft a quarterback every other year, if not every year. They want to keep that position stocked. I don't know how much we're going to be talking about Carson Beck or Shedeur Sanders or any of those guys, but
you're not using a top 100 pick,
right?
Preferably, probably not a top 150 pick on a quarterback next year.
Well, like fringe one fourth round, if you have like a late fourth, right? Where they took Bailey Zappi. Yeah. So Conor Wagman is projected a little higher right now, but he could be in that range. I mentioned Noah Fafita, who they're going to kind of have some inside info on from Jed Fish. He's a guy who could be in that range. And these guys further, Jalen Daniels, KJ Jefferson, Grayson McCall. If he doesn't rise up, DJ Uyunglele, especially if the Joe Milton experiment just turns out to be nothing and he's off the team. Brady Cook's another one, although I think he could be a sleeper. He could be a riser. Like, we are going to do quarterbacks during the draft this year. We are, because there's a real chance they're going to take one. We're just going to be talking about the day 3 guys rather than the first round guys.
Graham Mertz.
Oh, please no. Oh, dear, please no. Absolutely not.
They'll just replace Bailey Zappi with Graham Mertz on the.
They'll replace Bailey Zappi with significantly worse Bailey Zappi.
I was just
Cade McNamara. You want to do Cade McNamara? Peyton Thorne.
I'm good.
Brett Gabbert.
Dylan Gabriel's that low, 793.
Yeah, it's so early. I just noticed that. Yeah. So Cam Rising somebody. If Cam Rising doesn't have like a massive season, he's projected to go in like the 150 range. I'm gonna be pounding the table for Cam Rising. That dude is a freaking baller. That's a guy I want in the room. I don't know how much I want him playing, but that's a guy I want in the room, which is kind of the guy we're talking about the Patriots taking.
Honestly, yeah, that's what we kind of need. So yeah, we'll do quarterbacks, not high, which I'm looking forward to. We don't have to do that discussion again, hopefully for a long, long time. But we'll be talking about, quarterbacks, those later round options, especially how it shakes out with Joe Milton over here over the next 2 months. But Cody asked another one: Madden or college football 25? Obviously, college football 25. And if college football 25, which it is, what team are you playing as? We talked about that a little last week. I think we brought out that tier chart that was going around on Twitter. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I like Coastal, the field, the playbook's fun. I don't know if that's where I'll start though.
I'm probably going to do Road to Glory first. So whichever team gives me the most money in NIL is who I'll be playing with first. But if you read the Dynasty deep dive yesterday, which was, super nerdy, but so freaking cool, the depths they went into, it's going to be really, really, really hard to take a group of 5 school or even some lesser Power 4 programs and turn them into champions. Even where you start, because you're going to have coaches are going to be specialist recruiting in a certain part of the country. So you may think it's fun to start at UMass, but now that's where your recruiting specialty is. And that doesn't help you, because something else they talked about in there, they went through the real world data and lined it up so that not all the time, there'll always be exceptions, but the geographic recruiting is going to reflect real world trends. So the top quarterbacks mostly are going to be Southern California, Texas, and the Carolinas. They even broke it down within positions. So they were talking about receiver, right? East Texas, Florida. That's where all the good receivers come from. But they said there's a type of receiver in East Texas. Mike Evans is from Galveston. And that's that. East Texas is big, dog, jump ball wide receivers. East Texas into Western Louisiana and that. Whereas South Florida, where Tyreek Hill is from, Pop Douglas is from, you get a smaller, quicker, right? And the historic trends, there are geographic trends within this, and those are reflected in the game. So you started at UMass, that's fun, but now you're at another school and you want to recruit receivers. And you still can, they don't make anything impossible, but boy, I want to have that bonus in East Texas. I don't want to have it in East Boston. You know what I mean? Actually, East Boston gave us Wiggy, but you know what I'm talking about. So, I want Mike Evans. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think if you want to do the small school, you're really going to have to challenge yourself. Yeah. I don't want to have East Dedham as my recruiting area and have to recruit Mike Kadlick. I'd rather go get Mike Evans.
Yeah, literally. It'll be fun though, like DMing recruits, and you can stalk their social medias and stuff like that. And I saw it, like recruits can verbally commit. So does that mean they can like then decommit too?
So the
Like,
way it works is, so there's like I think it's like 14 categories that your school's like graded on, right? And it's like proximity to home, playing time, program prestige, coach prestige, academics. Which, did you see how mad people got over the academic ratings in the video game? Hilarious. But there's anyway, there's like all these grades, and certain recruits value certain things. So if you're a recruit that values like program prestige, if your program prestige isn't good, you're probably not going to be able to land that guy, or it's going to take you a lot more to do it. But though outside of, I think, obviously proximity to home can't change, academic standing can't change, and I think there's like one or two others that can't, but a lot of them are fluid. They're dynamic. They can change. So if a recruit, like let's say, championship, like a recruit runs play for championship contender, right? And he verbally commits to you early after you start like 5-0, and then you lose 4 in a row, your championship contender grade goes down. Now maybe you don't meet his requirements anymore, and he's going to decommit. Or even what they added, once these guys commit, they still maintain those priorities. So if you don't maintain them while they're there, boom, transfer portal. Like, it's insane. It's insane how deep and realistic they got. It's unbelievable. And the one thing about the old game, as fun as it is, it got really, really, really repetitive, because you just maxed out your coach and you could land anybody you wanted. They did a great job of making sure, like, depending on where you start, what school you're at, like, it's all going to feel super different.
Yeah. And it seems like it's going to be like a challenge. You can't just go to a MAC school and just be a national champion in 2 years or whatever. It's going to be,
you can do it, but you're going to have to really know what you're doing.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun game. Someone asked me Xbox or PS5. I still gotta.
You gotta get on Xbox.
Well, I'm a PlayStation guy. I've always been a PlayStation guy, so it's probably going to be a PS5. But
I don't think we need to do like a Patriots, not Patriots beat the show, like the
do they have
Patriots CLNS Dynasty? I don't think Dynasty's on crossplay. Play Now is, but I don't think, don't hold me to that, but I don't think Dynasty is. I'm pretty sure Tayler has an Xbox.
Okay, so we'll have to.
We got to see what Tayler has, but
do a little more research into that. But yeah, I was leaning. I've always been a PlayStation guy, so I was probably going to go PS5. Every time I look at it, though, I'm like, there's a regular, there's a slim, there's a digital, I don't know. I need someone to explain them all to me. Like
I saw somebody on Twitter today who's like, he's like in his 40s and obviously he's very excited for the game. Was like, I don't want to admit I bought a gaming console at my age, so I'm calling it a college football 25 machine. Just think about it that way. Is a college football 25 machine.
Football 25 machine. I like that. So that game will be.
Chat wants Brian to get an Xbox. Yeah, we use the chat rules like we did for the mock drafts.
I don't know. I've never had an Xbox.
I've gotten 3 friends who were PlayStation their whole lives, and now they need to get a new console for the game. I've gotten them all onto Xbox.
Really?
None of them regret it.
I don't know. I'll have to do a little more.
And Xbox is Game Pass, so you get like some games for free.
Okay. I don't know if I could turn my back on PlayStation like that, but we'll see. We'll see. If I have to, I might. We got a PS5 vote in there.
We'll wear you down. Yeah, but we've got 1, 2 for Xbox. I think those are on the CRS. So Xbox is winning, but
all right. We'll see.
Another for Xbox.
All right. We'll quick Boston sports minute. And before we do that, Game Time is our authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. That's what we got left. Summer. It's beautiful out. You can go watch some baseball at Fenway, and Game Time makes getting your tickets faster and easier because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, and zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. They have last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, comedy, theater, And concerts, plenty of concerts coming to Gillette, coming to Fenway. Zach Bryan's coming back. The first show, Alex looked awesome at Gillette, even
Unreal
though
time, great time.
The rain held off for most of it, right? Like there was a little at the end there, but looked like a awesome show. So Game Time, you can get your concert tickets as well on there, as well as your MLB tickets, and take the guesswork out of buying all of them with Game Time. Download Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed on the Game Time app. So quick Boston sports minute to end. I thought there was a Celtics and Bruins question up there I'll pull up, but Red Sox hasn't been great last week, but where are you at with the trade deadline coming up? Still kind of same, you're ready to buy, or has the last week kind of veered you off the
I mean,
way?
I still think you invest, but like, no, let's not go over the top. Let's not trade Marcelo Mayer. And I was never in that boat, but I'd still like, you can trade. You got all these middle infielders. You could trade one for a starting pitcher. You trade one of your lower ranked middle infielders for a starting pitcher. You can move Kenley. You can, like, Kenley should be traded one way or the other. It's good business. I don't want to see him do nothing. Even if they sell, at least that shows some attentiveness. I just don't want to see him do nothing.
Yep, I agree with you there. We had a Celtics. What other moves can the Celtics and Bruins make? Celtics are just bringing. Celtics just brought everyone back. I don't think they can. Can they even like physically do anything else with the money they have left?
Well, like money, they don't really have the roster spots. Assuming that Baylor Schneiderman's going to make the team, he gets O'Shea Brissett's spot. Everybody else is back.
Yeah.
So, they'll add some guys to summer league. They'll probably pick up a few of those guys, put them in Maine. Maybe they get two ways, but the Celtics pretty much done. Bruins obviously still need, they got to get Swayman signed. That's one. And then they still got to add another scoring wing. I know they talked about getting the kids involved, but just some kind of like we talked about with Mac Jones and what he could do. Can you just get a veteran wing for like $2 million that maybe isn't the greatest player in the world? Maybe he's cooked, but like just so you have some sort of presence there on that second line if Fabian Lysell and those kids don't work out.
I'm ready to believe in Fabian Lysell. I've talked myself into him. It took 2 days, but we'll see. My dream is still they trade for Rutger McGroarty, all-time name, first of all. And Rucka would be awesome in Boston, but he's like a 20-year-old Wayne. He plays at Michigan. He wants out of Winnipeg. He doesn't want to sign there. He would be the dream. I've been yapping about him on Twitter, trying to get him to, but it would probably take like a first-round pick. It would take a good amount to get him, but he's 20 years old and he's a top 6 winner, so I think he would be perfect. And he's cheap. He'd be on his ELC, so it's like $950,000. But that's the dream. But yeah, I don't think they'll make anything major. Like Swayman obviously will take most of the money, and then could just be a few guys on like a player tryout, like Heinen was last year. A couple depth like scoring winners with some potential there. So this roster pretty much for the Bruins is what it is. But I feel better about it than I did the other day. I've talked myself into the moves a little bit more, especially if Lysell or Merkulov can hold down a spot. But if they still want to completely buy me and go get Rutger McGroarty for me, and I would feel better. But I think that's it. We got a few more PS5 votes in the chat, though. I will say that. And
all right, there you
Steven says we can cross-play PS5. So
I know you can cross-play like Play Now. It's about, can you cross-play Dynasty?
Dynasty, the important stuff. So we'll do more research in that. We'll get to that. But let's call it there. Let's get to our 4th of July weekend. I hope everyone has a wonderful long weekend. Looks like the weather will be nice, so go out and enjoy it. What's your meal choice there? Hot dogs?
Burgers
and dogs?
Wings, actually. I'm making wings.
Making wings? All right. We'll have to survive without Joey Chestnut at Coney Island eating hot dogs.
Oh, yeah. Who you got?
I don't who even else is there? Like Matt, who's the local guy? Stoney
Matt
something?
Stoney.
Matt
I mean, that's who I got. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to miss Joey Chestnut. I'm going to miss betting his over, but it's going to be interesting to watch because we don't know. It'll have
to be a competition.
Right. Like, we don't know who's going to win.
Because it used to always just be how many would Joey Chestnut eat?
Oh, I don't think Stoney's in it. I'm looking at the odds. He's not listed. Jeffrey Esper's the favorite. James Webb, Nick Weary, Patrick Patrick Bertoletti. Oh, it does say field, so maybe he's in the field. Gideon OG, Derek Hendrickson, Darian Thomas, Max Stafford, George. I can't pronounce that, but I mean, I gotta see what these guys look like. That's the thing.
Well, I just pulled up Prize Picks, and they have entries for hot dog eating.
Okay.
So, it just disappeared. I don't know what just happened to it. But they have more or less. You can go over to Prize Picks and submit your daily fantasy entries for hot dog eating. Looked like they had a special square there before it just disappeared. That one person only has to eat more than half a dog, which hopefully they can do that. So again, code CLNS on Prize Picks, first deposit match up to $100. You can fill out a little 4th of July hot dog eating entry there. But yeah, it might actually be a competition without Joey Chestnut, but it'll be sad not watching him there. So that'll do it for us. Today, you can head over to 985thesportshub.com to read Alex's written work at Real Alex Barth on Twitter, patspulpit.com to read our written Patriots coverage over there at I am Brian Hines on Twitter. We'll be back next week as usual, 2 shows to break down whatever else, probably another extension at this point to talk about, but we'll be back next week. So hope everyone has a wonderful 4th of July weekend, and thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys later.